Hi everyone, thanks for watching the Compass Guide videos and please do spread the word among your friends and peers. It might help them and definitely do not forget to subscribe so that you are able to see the new videos that comes up. Today I'm again really privileged and honored and thankful that somebody has been able to give some time in a very short notice to come and talk to us and somebody who has been doing a phenomenal job on the space of immigration, especially for Canada. And I have been talking to him for some time. I follow him for all updates regarding Canadian immigration. I look up to him for the information flow and the quality of content that he produces and the kind of work he does on this space. So, without wasting too much time, let me introduce to all of you. Some of you probably know him, Kubeir Kamal. Hey, Kubeir.
Hi. Well, I mean, suddenly for a minute, I was not sure if you were talking about me or about somebody else.
No, but that's true because you know how I reached out to you.
No, I mean,
and
yeah,
and
but some of those words I don't deserve. But yeah, I mean, I'll take them anyways. I mean, who won't mind a good compliment, right?
yeah, so I would the rest of it I would leave it to Kuber to talk about. Kuber, why don't you give a little bit of the space in which you work, and the job that you do, and give the people an understanding of a little bit more than what I could introduce you to.
Well, I am an ICCRC licensed Canadian immigration consultant, and by law, I am licensed to give Canadian immigration advice and handle applications on behalf of people to the Canadian immigration authorities. That is my professional side. But then we also manage several YouTube, not only YouTube, of course, a lot of social media platforms where we do encourage people to do it yourself, DIY, way of doing things, so that they can actually handle their own applications instead of falling into the various scams that are being run in several countries, especially the subcontinent, where people are being fooled and being misled into different understandings. Some people may not have a chance at all, but they walk into an agent's office just on the corner of the street, and that person tells them, oh, you're 45 years old, you don't have a bachelor's degree, don't worry about it, you will be fine, just pay my fee and then you will become a permanent resident, as if it's a walk in the park. And that guy spends enormous money, and it's not going anywhere. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, he realizes he's been duped and obviously no closer to coming to Canada at all. So the effort has only been to create a bigger, larger awareness, and for people to understand the real and actual way of, or rather the legal way of processing your applications, doing it the right way, and also understanding what it takes to get here.
Yeah, and this is so very important. I would like to tell this to everyone that whenever I've spoken to Kuber, and so many referrals probably I would have given to Kuber where when somebody reached out to me saying that they are interested to know, and I myself have immigrated and have been through that piece that just Kuber mentioned. It is very important that a business which where he's legally is somebody who can advise, but he also makes sure that people try to take it on their own. They understand what really is the rule, what really is the law, and all the social platforms that Kuber has promotes that in a very big way, that understand it yourself, try to get into the questions, see how it is, work hard on it, and then understand. And I think that's the most important critical part. Obviously, if you have a specialized case, and or if you're in a situation where you definitely need advice, then Kuber is always there for us. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's always
So
there.
not only
But
myself, so there's a big, large segment of licensed and authorized professionals, the lawyers, the immigration consultants. Reach out. Don't have to reach out to me. I mean, this is not about self-promotion. This is about just making people aware that, at the end of the day, when you do reach out to somebody, make sure it's an authorized representative, and then you'll be fine.
yes, and you just do it in the right way, do it in the legal right way. Uh,
Yep.
Coming to the questions, Kuber, I thought that we will talk about two or three points which might be helpful for whoever watches this video. So, in the current context of things with COVID, so many things have just stalled for last 1.5 years. You are very close to what's going on at a ground level to understand what's going on, and with your experience. So, can you give a view of what's going on, especially for people who have either applied and not sure. And I saw a couple of posts of yours where some rumors are going on, and you just try to make sure that the rumors are not heard into. So those kind of people, and people who were thinking of applying or planning to apply, say 1.5 years back, and then got stuck. So for that group of people, what would be one or two advices that you would have?
Well, that's now a two-part question, right? People who have applied and people who are still to apply. So for people who have applied, when you say the word stalled, I think it's a very, very minute word in this scheme of things that is happening. It's not just stalled. It's like a complete machinery has come to a halt.
Right.
And I have just got off from a live video that I was doing, just finished it now, where we were discussing stories of people who have been affected because of all these delays that are happening. And there are some really, really, frustrated, angry, stressed out people out there because of what this process has done to them. In the sense, like, ever since COVID stuck, it's like everybody's life came to a halt. The processing stopped. Applications were not being finalized. I'm not saying processed. Applications were being processed, but they were not being finalized. People obviously were not allowed to travel, even if they have a valid PR visa, means you are approved as a permanent resident, but you couldn't travel to Canada because of the COVID restrictions that were in place. And people just did not know. I think the biggest problem was the lack of clarity or the lack of communication, which did not come through from the Canadian government as to when, how, what, why kind of a situation. And that left people, wondering what to do. I mean, at the end of the day, when you're migrating, it's a big move, right? You'll pack bag and baggage. You will say goodbye to relatives. If you're leasing a house, you will complete your lease. You'll get the children out of school. You'll resign from jobs, and all of that. Now, imagine having done all that, waiting for your flight 2 weeks later, and now being told by the government you can't travel. And then you'll say, okay, unpack the bags because this will go away. It's temporary. And that temporary hasn't gone away for what now, a year and a half. What do you think has happened to people's lives? They're left nowhere. So they don't know whether to put their children back into school or not. And every month they're thinking, okay, I'll go next month. I'll go next month. I'll go next month. And the children, I know of at least 2 families which finally decided to homeschool their children. Okay. The guy couldn't find a job again because he let go of a very lucrative position, which obviously was filled up very quickly. COVID was a bad situation, or rather is a bad situation. People couldn't find new jobs after that. People's life have sort of come to a total, I don't even know the right kind of a word. It was totally devastating for so many of them out there. There are people who are really suffering from some very serious mental well-being issues, as in they're depressed, they're stressed out. There were some very harsh things being said about so many people. It's been a difficult one for a lot of them because of the fact that there is no clarity. There is no clear statement from the government which says, okay, this is what's going to happen next. I think that is what has been missing. But on the better side of things, from effective June 21, everybody who had a valid visa to travel to Canada, they were said, okay, you can now travel. So that was a positive move. Canadian vaccination programs are progressing well, and therefore Canada is now in a phased manner reopening, which is a good move. There was a hotel quarantine, which was mandatory for everybody who was coming into Canada. That is now exempt from, or rather that has been removed from the 9th of August. And come 7th of September, if you are fully vaccinated, even as a tourist, you can now come to Canada. So we are moving towards the phased reopening stages, but it's just that it's not working for everybody. Now, if you talk about the second part of your question as to people who are still preparing, well, it's not going to be easy for them. And the reason for that is that while the whole world shut down, they all came to a standstill because of COVID. Like Australia did not allow anybody in. They put their whole permanent residence program on hold. New Zealand did the same thing. And on the contrary, those 2 countries have made it more difficult. England, on the similar side of things. US, I mean, when was it ever easy to become a permanent resident in the US? What does it leave you with? How many options do you have? I mean, like, what does it leave you with? So Canada's still welcoming people. Canada's still announcing these bold, aggressive immigration quotas and targets each year, 400,000 for this year, and 1.2 million for the 3 years running cycle. That's a very, very big number to sort of, encourage and entice people to sort of choose Canada as their home. So people obviously are motivated to sort of, go towards Canada. But is it easy? No, it's not. Because what has happened is that because of this campaign that was created, and I don't think it was an intentional campaign, but the fact that they announced these bold progressive targets, that the media around the world started obviously promoting Canada and saying, okay, you know what, Canada is now calling 1.2 million people, and hey, let's go to Canada. And the agents who are in the business of making money while the sun is shining, kind of a thing, started sort of telling everybody as if it's going to be a walk in the park. It's so easy. All you need to do is have a bachelor's degree, just appear for English exam and you'll be fine. I'll make you happen. I'll make it happen for you. You'll go. More and more and more demand started getting created, to an extent now that there are at any given point of time more than 160,000 profiles, active profiles in the express entry pool alone. Now, express entry pool, for people who don't know, is the pool of eligible candidates who have submitted their expression of interest under the federal immigration program, also under the express entry management system. So express entry, and like a lot of people assume, is not a program, it's just a file management system. But a lot of people have been registering their interest, and 166,000 on the last count was the number of people, active profiles in the pool. How many invitations are being issued? 4,500 to 5,000 every 2 weeks. Who's going to get through? Only the top scoring people or the top ranking people. What is the profile of the top ranking individual? 29 years old, master's degree, 3 years of work experience in the eligible occupation, obviously, and very high proficiency in English. This is what will bring you to the top of the pool. And then obviously there are those additional factors of whether you have whether you have a sibling in Canada, whether you have some connection to Canada, as in work experience, as in education, as in you have a job offer, then that bumps you up further. But are you seeing the difference as in what is being talked about, as in how easy it is versus how competitive actually it is? So even if you haven't applied to Canada but are now gearing up for it, keep in mind that it's not going to be easy. You have to be a smart customer. You have to be aware of what is out there and what you need to expect. You have to do due diligence to understand that you're doing it the right way. And you have to be a good researcher. So if Googling was your skill, then you have to up your skill, Google well, research well, understand the process well, make sure that you can take benefit of factors wherever you can, if it's possible, and then you make your application.
One very important, very interesting point, question I have in my mind, Kubeir, that in the starting March 2020, most of the visa centers were closed, right, across the globe for Canada. So does it mean that nobody could apply fresh PR from March till now, and that 166,000 is basically the ones who had done it before? Is that what would it be?
No. The two different things. 166 is the number of people who are in the express entry pool waiting to be invited. Once you get invited, then you submit the application, then it goes for processing.
Okay.
So from March 2020, the processing did not stop, mind you. The processing continued. The applications were not being finalized. So there are multiple stages in an application being processed. Then will come a point of time where the immigration authorities will say, okay, we find this person to be absolutely fine. All his documentation check, all the background checks also are fine. His security is fine, criminality is fine. Okay, let's call him to Canada. That's the time they will issue you a passport request, whereby you can send your passport, get it stamped for the visa, and then fly into Canada. That final step was being withheld. And that is, if you're not going to get a visa to Canada, how are you going to come here, right? But the processing continued. I was just reading out a report this morning. As of June this year, 66% of the visa offices were only providing critical services. They were not completing the process, completing applications. As of June, 1 million applications, people who have submitted their applications, 1 million, and this includes TRVs, which is temporary resident visas as well. 1 million applications are in the backlog waiting to be finalized. So when I'm saying 1 million, of this, about 350,000 is PR applications or permanent residence applications. 750, again, the figures are not accurate. I might be sort of but the total is 1 million. So roughly 700,000 applications are TRV. When I'm saying TRV, I'm talking about visit visas, open work permits, study permits, uh, super visas. All these are about 700,000 in the queue backlog. And then you have about 350,000 PR applications. PR applications are not only express entry, they could be provincial nominee applications, business immigration applications, humanitarian applications, spousal sponsorship applications, and of course, PR applications under the express entry. So this is the backlog as of now, 1 million applications. So you can only imagine when you will see them all getting through.
Moving on. Wow. Now that's a very interesting, important information for people. The other question that I have for this session, a lot of people call me who are in the age group of say 30 plus, 30 to 35, 40. I think people are aware that it becomes a little challenging as you move to that direction. If you are someone who is between 30 to 35, what would be the two three things that you think Kubeir is very critical for them, and if they're thinking in their minds to come to Canada, what would be few things that they need to keep in mind?
Well, early 30s, you still might be okay. You might still be able to squeeze in. Again, depends on a lot of factors there. But I would say provincial nominee programs is something which you could look at off the bat. And by provincial nominee programs, I mean, so for people who do not know, Canada has 13 provinces and territories, and each of the province or territory would have a separate immigration stream, which they offer to individuals who they think will want to make that province their home. So the basic premise is that they want to encourage people to come and live in their province, establish there, reside there. Because historically, people tend to move only to Toronto or Vancouver or Montreal. These are the three main hub cities where people tend to move to. And Canada, as we know, is the second largest country in the world with this huge landmass where almost 90% is uninhabitable. So there are provinces who want to encourage people to move to their province, and therefore they will offer this provincial nominee program. But each of them also then further have their own criteria, their own requirements, who they will prefer, not prefer. And it is mainly the preference is based on one, where you currently are. So basically, if you are living in that province, then there is a better preference for you. And two, what your occupation is. So if your occupation or your work experience is in a field which they are interested in because of the labor market priorities, then they probably will invite you. And you could obviously look at those options. So if you're within the 30 to 35 range, provincial nominee programs is something which you should look at off the bat straight away. Second thing would be to check your English language scores again to see if there is a possibility for you to bump it up. That could significantly see some changes. Third, very good option, which is a bit difficult one, but nevertheless it's a good option, is French. If you were to take French as a second language, that again adds significant advantage in your application. Not only do you get some very important valuable points added in your profile, but also certain provincial nominee programs which are concentrating only on French speakers, those open up as well. So off the bat, these three things would be something which not only 30 to 35 but even beyond that could look at. And fourth, which is obviously an established permanent residency route, but is an expensive one. And that is, you come to Canada as a student, you study in Canada, 1 year, 2 year program, you get a work permit, depending on the period length of your study. Using that work permit, you get Canadian work experience, and that would then allow you to either apply through express entry or through a provincial nominee program. But this is a very well established route that people have been using for, ages now.
Well, and last question, Kubeir, for you for this session. And I know that we had this chat before, but I just wanted a couple of points from you. When somebody who is hitting the 40 range, age group 40 plus, and still having plans to move in, what are few things that you would like to tell them?
Well, it's the same thing. Even at 30 to 35, it's difficult, or rather it is becoming difficult. When you cross 40, it has already become very difficult, because suddenly the points you get for your age is on the lower side of things now. The biggest uh, drawing factor once you have crossed 40 would be if you are able to secure a job offer with an employer in Canada. Now, I say that as if it was quite simple. It is not. Finding a job in Canada or getting a job offer from an employer in Canada is considered to be one of the most difficult things in the entire process. It's like as good as hitting on Aladdin's lamp, if you want to call that. But is it impossible? No, it is not impossible. It's actually, it takes a lot of hard work and effort. People want things easily. This is not going to come easily. So this is definitely one thing that people can do. I know of a few individuals who took it as a challenge that they are going to sort of make it happen. And what they would do religiously is every morning on LinkedIn, on Job Bank, on some other job portals, they made it a task that they had to do this. They would apply to 50 jobs in the morning and 50 jobs in the evening every single day. And they did that religiously for X number of days. Okay. And sometimes you think that something like this, does this even make any sense? And trust me, all of those individuals did secure a job offer eventually. I'm not saying it will apply to everybody. I'm not saying it's easy for everybody. I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody. But if you have some skill sets to offer, and if you have that grit to grind it out, then this is where it starts. You first, it's the same thing, right? I mean, people pray to God, God, let me win a lottery ticket. Let me win a lottery ticket. And then you don't win a lottery ticket, or you don't win a lottery. And you go back to God and say, listen, I prayed my whole life and you never had me win a lottery. And the God smacks you on your head and says, did you buy the lottery ticket? So, it's the same thing. You want to get the job, but are you applying for a job? So that's where it boils down to. How many lottery tickets do you need to buy to win a lottery? Okay, it's the same funda, if you want to call it. So you gotta show up. You gotta turn out, and you gotta show up, and you gotta put in that effort. You gotta make that happen for you. You gotta apply. You gotta brighten up or shine up your resume. You gotta make it look crisp. If you have to do a video resume, make a nice creative video resume. If you're a graphic designer, make some good examples. I was just seeing this thing this morning on Instagram, or was it on YouTube, that there was this individual who was so bored during the pandemic time that she started using her creativity into using these innate objects and making creative videos out of them. And she really did a good job with them. And then she put it out on Instagram as a hobby kind of thing, on TikTok, on Reels. And suddenly it caught the attention of the big brands, and she landed up securing some very, very amazing contracts. Now, how did that happen? The creativity was there, but she was willing to put it out. So if you have that in you and you're not willing to put it out, then how will anybody know that you're ready to do it? So the question, I mean, I know I've deviated out a bit, but what I was trying to tell you is that people have to be prepared to do what it takes. So if you're 40 and above and you're saying, I cannot get a job offer, then you have to sort of turn up and apply for jobs, number one. Number two, even at the age of 40, you can still come to Canada as a student. Even at the age of 45, you can come to Canada as a student. You just need to be able to prove that you're a bona fide, genuine student. Your past academic records were good, your work experience was within the lines, or you can make a good case or a good application to say, this is the reason why I want to come to study in Canada. I have done my research. The same study, I cannot get the same value if I was to study back in my home country. This is the reason why it doesn't make sense. This is the reason that if I was to come and study in Canada, I would get better benefit, or I would benefit out of this, or this would sort of help me boost my career into this particular level. This is my benefit that I'm getting. And I'm willing to spend this money in Canada for my education, because this is much bigger, larger ROI that I will get on this. If you're able to make a good case out of it, in 9 out of 10 cases, you do get approvals, even at the age of 40, 44, 45. I know of a 54-year-old who managed to secure his study permit application. Okay. So it's not a unicorn, if a lot of people call that, but it happens. But again, at the end of the day, as you grow older, it becomes that much more difficult. It needs that much more effort from your side. So the first question is, do you really want to make Canada your home? That's you have to be honest to yourself. Do you really need to, first of all, do you want it? And then do you need it? If you can answer those two questions, and then put in the hard work and show up, and then forever hopeful that you will actually make it happen for you.
Oh, perfect. And thank you, Kubeir, for these points. So we will discuss maybe in a different time, in a different video. We'll talk about the business scopes, business immigration scopes into Canada, and what are the few things. But again, thank you so very much for taking out time
Thank
today
you.
in such a short notice. And
Thank
I'm
you.
sure people would love the points that you give, told them about, and the situation at the ground level. It would definitely help them. Thank you again for your time, and thanks everybody for watching.
Thank
And
you.
subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you. All the best, guys.